Today I want to look at Mr. Hakainde Hichilema's crimes. Yes, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema's crimes. Yes, Hakainde Hichilema is guilty. Guilty, guilty, and guilty. Yes, he is guilty. He is guilty of trying to make his country great again. He is guilty of trying to remove bad eggs and replace them with fresh ones in the system. He is guilty of trying to make every citizen treat fairly and equally. He is guilty of trying to disengage the police from and ending brutality among the opposite political birds. He is guilty of trying to peacefully change the oppressive political leaders and their followers. Mr. Hakainde, indeed, he is guilty without fail. More revelations on Mr. Hakainde's guilty. He is guilty of creating millions of dollars at his age. He is guilty of coming from Southern Province. I emphasize, he is guilty of coming from Southern Province. He is guilty of intending to create thousands of jobs for the suffering and languishing graduates around the country. Mr. Hakainde is guilty of trying to secure 25 billion for investment in the country for different investments that will include ZESCO or energy. He is guilty of trying to stop Ninchekeleko in government procurements and contracts. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is guilty for calling corruption a vice or a parasite. He is guilty of trying to reduce the cabinet to avoid overspending. Mr. Hakainde is guilty. He is guilty of trying to reduce the huge monetary drain on social services meant to save the masses. Mr. Hakainde is guilty. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is guilty. He is guilty of making calculations on which other criminals do not understand properly, because accordingly, for someone not to be guilty of criminality, at least 2/3 of the majority amongst the criminals must be able to calculate or understand the economic calculations that were made by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Now, having found that the calculations that were made by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema could not be understood by any common criminal, therefore, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is guilty. He is guilty of many more amazing contributions that he has done worldwide with his knowledge. At that level, it is really a criminal offense for Mr. Hakainde Hichilema to have convinced many people that he is a genius and he is a man who can change any system of business as long as his brain is involved. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is guilty. He is guilty of allowing people watch and listen to his speech in Kitwe during the rain. The people braved the rain and became drenched. Imagine, we are just in the first rains and we just prayed for these rains on October 18th. And Mr. Hichilema is allowing people to brave the rain. Therefore, he is guilty. I think, or according to the law, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema needs to be convicted and forced to save. I want to emphasize here, save for 10 years imprisonment as punishment for what he has done. And this must be done starting his term. As he saved, the sentence must begin on the dates 2021. Again, on this one, I need to emphasize his prison must be in the Lower Zambezi National Park without fail. His prison must be in the Lower Zambezi National Park without fail. This is my judgment. May my co-laborers take their course without mitigation.